The twin suns hung overhead like a pair of judgmental eyes, glaring down on the sand-blasted carcass of the Varela waste. Wind coiled lazily over the dunes, whispering ancient secrets to no one in particular, and occasionally tripping over rusted bolts and half-buried drone husks. A heat shimmer danced over the ridgeline, cloaking movement, but not hiding it. She sat in the hollow of a bone-dry crater, knees drawn tight, white skin powdered with ochre dust. Her ears, long, soft-angled things that bent with the breeze, twitched slightly at each gust. She did not cry anymore. Her eyes had run dry 3 nights ago, or maybe longer. Time dissolved out here. It seeped out of her, carried away by wind and sun and silence. Nothing lived in the desert but things that knew how to be forgotten. A distant sound, more felt than heard, shivered through the ground. Not thunder, not natural, mechanical, cranky, definitely crashing. Then came a long mechanical groan, followed by a heartfelt, "Oh, for the love of orbital socks!" and a loud, crunchy thud. She peeked over the edge of her little crater. Skimming low over the sand like a drunken beetle, a battered one-man recon flyer slammed into a dune and flipped end over end until it finally skidded to a stop in a puff of cursed sand and smoke. The pilot, now thoroughly tangled in a harness and half buried in a seat that had ambitions of becoming modern art, groaned again and muttered something about never trusting navigation AIs with attitude settings above 60%. The girl did not move. She watched. The pilot kicked the door open. Sort of. Mostly he just fell out of it with the grace of a man who'd lost several arguments to furniture. He coughed, spat out a mouthful of sand, and blinked up at the sky. "Right," he announced to the heavens. "Next time, I take the walking tour." He rolled to his feet with the fluid elegance of someone whose spine had recently been introduced to G-forces at unkind angles. Then he froze. They saw each other at the same time. He blinked. She blinked. He tilted his head, squinting at her ears. "Well, hell, either I've concussed myself into a fantasy novel, or you're not a hallucination." She said nothing, just looked at him with the wariness of someone who'd seen too many shoes fall from too many skies. He dusted himself off, shrugged, and trudged up the dune toward her. "Name's Colt, Sergeant Colt Rennick, recon and repair, an occasional crash test dummy, apparently." Still no answer. He stopped a few feet away, hands up. "Not here to hurt you. Just crashed a perfectly fine piece of government property because I was chasing a rogue ping that turned out to be you. Or an echo. You got a name?" She frowned faintly. Her fingers twitched. "All right," he said, lowering himself to a crouch. "Let's start simple. You thirsty?" Her ears perked just slightly. Her eyes followed the canteen as he unscrewed the cap. He handed it over carefully. She hesitated, then reached, fingers delicate, movements precise. She drank, slowly, reverently. "Yep," he muttered, "definitely not a hallucination. Hallucinations don't make you feel this guilty about not packing extra canteens." She wiped her mouth, then stared at the bottle like it might vanish. Colt settled on the edge of the crater, staring out at the broken horizon. "You're a long way from anywhere, even farther from safe. So I gotta ask, who left you out here?" The girl's lips parted, then closed again. Her shoulders tensed. "Fair," he said quickly. "None of my business, yet." They sat for a long moment, listening to the wind play tricks on old wrecks. Then she tilted her head, eyes narrowing at his boots. "What?" he asked, looking down. "Yeah, okay, they're ugly, but they've got personality." She reached out, poked the left one, blinked, then pulled her hand back. He grinned. "Yeah, they've got a bite. Wore a pair like that back on Kesra the Fourth. They nearly filed for sentience." Still nothing. "Right," he sighed, rising to his feet and brushing sand from his rear. "You don't talk. That's fine. You can be the strong, silent type. I'll handle the chatter." He glanced at the sun, then at the line of mountains in the distance. "Nearest shelter's about 12 clicks that way. I've got a broken skimmer, 1 ration bar, and a desperate hope that you're not secretly some sort of flesh-eating mirage. Want to walk with me?" She stood, hesitated, then nodded. He grinned. "That's the spirit. We'll get along just fine. I'll call you Pebble. You look like you belong in this sand, but you're tougher than you look. Also, I once named a blaster that. She raised an eyebrow. What? It had a temper. They started walking, the desert stretching ahead of them like the unkind smile of a universe that had long since run out of patience. Colt talked, mostly to keep himself sane. Pebble listened, mostly because she had nothing left to lose. She watched him stumble over rocks, argue with his scanner, and sing off-key to a song only he could hear. Once she almost smiled. As the sun dipped and the shadows grew long and strange, they crested a dune and saw something gleaming below. Half-buried metal, angular and ancient. A relay tower. Cracked, forgotten, but maybe functional. Maybe not. Colt whooped. Would you look at that? Our luck's turned, which is suspicious. But I'll take it. She followed him down the slope, her feet silent, her presence a whisper against the chaos of his every move. Neither of them noticed the drone, high above, cloaked, watching. Neither of them knew yet that the universe had not forgotten her. Not yet. The relay tower leaned like a drunk uncle at a family reunion, half buried in sand, its spire bent 30 degrees off honest. Colt squinted up at it, shielding his eyes from the last angry glare of the setting suns. Well, he said, I've seen worse. Once tried to patch a transmitter that had been eaten by a sandworm. This one just looks like it's had a midlife crisis and gave up. Pebble didn't reply. She stood beside him, watching the structure with cautious interest, her head tilted as if listening to something he couldn't hear. The breeze tugged at her long ears, which flicked in mild irritation. Colt started climbing, boots slipping in the sand. Bet you 5 creds and a slice of Nutriloaf this thing fries me the second I touch it. Pebble raised an eyebrow. He grinned. I like your odds. The base of the relay was half open, panels ajar like the guts of a machine that had decided dignity wasn't worth the heat. Inside, sand had made itself comfortable, nesting between circuits and swallowing bolts. Colt pulled out a multi-tool the size of a baby walrus and began poking at the insides with the precision of someone who fixed things mostly by intimidation. You know, he said, back in the Corps, they used to call me the wrench whisperer, mostly because I talk to my tools. Some folks talk to plants, I talk to gears. No judgment. Pebble sat in the shade fiddling with a piece of wiring she'd found. She twisted it into a loop, then a star, then a shape that resembled a language Colt didn't recognize. Her fingers moved with instinct, not play, memory. The relay coughed to life with a wheeze and a flicker. A single light blinked on the console. Colt blinked back. See? He said. Wrench whisperer. Or maybe it just likes you. She didn't smile, but she didn't frown either. Progress. He adjusted the frequency dial. Static, more static. A brief blip of an old Earth comedy sketch, then static again. Either we've got a weak signal or the universe is taunting me with forgotten sitcoms, he muttered. Then the console chirped. Not a distress call, not a broadcast, a lockout. Hey, Pebble, he called. Did you ever do something real dumb and immediately regret it? She looked at him like that was a question with only one answer. Good, because I just pinged someone, and I don't think it's the local knitting club. The console pulsed once more, then shut itself off. He sighed. Yep, that's not ominous at all. Night fell like a soft blanket filled with holes. Stars scattered across the sky in clusters that meant something to old navigators and nothing to the forgotten. Colt built a fire using a trick with a plasma cell and a bit of metal he promised wasn't stolen from the relay. Pebble watched, fascinated. So, he said around a mouthful of ration bar. What's the story, Pebble? You got the whole sad, mysterious vibe going? Someone toss you out here on purpose? Or did you wander away from alien Girl Scouts? She took the ration bar he handed her without comment, nibbled it, chewed with a face of profound betrayal. He laughed. Yeah, tastes like rehydrated disappointment. They sat quietly for a while. A low-frequency hum buzzed through the air, soft and distant, like an old machine singing to itself. Pebble closed her eyes. When she opened them, they shimmered faintly, just for a second. Colt didn't notice. A sudden rustle behind the relay made him jump and point his tool like a weapon. A dust lizard darted out, paused dramatically, then flipped him off with its tail and vanished. He exhaled. Nearly declared war on a gecko. Pebble tilted her head. Gecko? He stared. Wait, did you just talk? She blinked and looked away. No, don't back out now. You said something. She shrugged, clearly regretting the decision. Fine, he grinned. We'll log that under first contact. Subject mocked my boots, then spoke. Progress. The wind picked up, not gentle now, whispering, curling, cold despite the heat. Sand shifted around them like it was remembering something. He threw another scrap of metal on the fire. You feel that? Pebble nodded. Her ears twitched. He scanned the horizon. Nothing. No lights, no shapes. But he felt it too. A presence. Distant, like a camera lens just outside vision. You ever get that feeling you're being watched? He muttered. Pebble didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the stars. Yeah, me neither, he said. Totally normal night. Just you, me, and the buzzing dread of unknown surveillance. She reached into the sand beside her and pulled something out. A tiny sphere, half buried, smooth and black, with lines etched like circuitry. She handed it to him. He turned it over. That's not ominous. It blinked once. A soft tone pulsed. Then nothing. Colt licked his lips. Cool. Definitely not a tracking beacon. Pebble stood. Her stance changed. Subtle but certain. As if something in her remembered what danger felt like. He rose too. We moving? She nodded. They packed quickly. Colt complained about the sand getting into places it shouldn't. She watched him fumble with his gear with the faintest flicker of amusement. He caught it. Oh, so you can laugh. Noted. I'll add Mock's authority to your file. They set off toward the jagged rock formations in the distance, shadows like teeth under starlight. Behind them, the relay tower hummed again. Not from life, from memory. The drone that had watched them earlier drifted silently above, still cloaked, relaying images across the sky. Somewhere far away, someone sat in a darkened room, watching and smiling. Not because the girl had been found, but because she hadn't run yet. They found shelter in the cleft of two broken hills where the wind howled like an old space freighter's busted exhaust. The stone walls bent inward, like the bones of a colossal creature that had once tried to stand and failed. Colt dropped his pack, kicked a rock, and declared the cave moderately cozy if you don't mind the smell of prehistoric disappointment. Pebble did not mind. She explored the crevice like a cat with trauma, cautious, silent, but methodical. Her fingers brushed the rock with a reverence that suggested memory. She touched a glyph scorched into the stone, too old to belong to any human chart. Language? Colt asked. She looked at him, then tapped her head once. He got it. Sort of. Yours? She nodded, then paused, tilted her head. Was? He tried to interpret the motion. So, you're not sure? Or it was yours and now it's, what, property of the cosmos? She just stared at him, expression carefully neutral. The firelight from his burner puck reflected in her eyes. Well, he said, pulling a tangle of cables from his satchel, I've been misidentified on 3 planets in one very enthusiastic bachelor party, so I get it. Pebble pointed at the cables. What's that? Colt almost dropped them. That was a sentence, like with a verb and everything. She blinked. Not quite a smile, but definitely amusement. This, he said, holding up the mess, is what passes for emergency entertainment in my unit. Hand me that little projector lens. No, not that, the flat one. There, thanks. He hooked everything up with the flair of someone who'd once spent a week stuck in orbit with nothing but spare parts and too many opinions. A shimmer lit up between the stones, a flickering hologram of a low-budget training simulation with actors who had clearly been paid in expired pudding packets. A man in a poorly fitted uniform shouted, "Breach Protocol Alpha! Repeat, breach Protocol Alpha!" Another man threw himself through a wall for no reason at all. Pebble watched, transfixed. Why is he diving? Colt shrugged. Honestly, we still don't know. We think it was his dramatic exit strategy, or a bet. The actors started shouting. The fake alien, two people in a foam suit, stumbled into frame and fell over. Pebble raised an eyebrow. This is what you learn from? Oh no, Colt grinned. This is what we laugh at. Big difference. He let the simulation run while he rigged a crude signal scanner from the remaining bits of his skimmer. It was a Frankensteinian mess of wires, melted plastic, and one very angry power core held together with courage and gum. We might get a ping, he said, or we might accidentally summon a mining bot. Either way, someone will show up. Pebble wandered to the edge of the cleft and stared at the sky. Her ears twitched. You got good hearing? Colt asked. She nodded. Too good. He tapped his head. My ex said that about me and my selective listening. She didn't get it. He moved on. The scanner chirped. Faint signal. Encrypted. Military frequency. Not his. Uh-oh. Pebble turned. Bad? Maybe. Maybe it's a rescue team. Or maybe it's someone who noticed I poked the universe with a long stick, which in my defense is part of my job. He adjusted the gain. Static. Then a voice. Z signal in quadrant 13 Delta. Track and retrieve. Target confirmed. Secondary human present. Caution advised. Colt turned slowly toward Pebble. Okay, south bad. Her face tightened. Not fear, expectation. You knew they'd come? She didn't answer. Her fingers clenched. Right, he muttered. So we're not just running from the desert. We're running from them. The drone signal blinked again. Closer now. I can scramble our profile for a few minutes, he said, yanking cables like a man disarming a cake. But after that, we move. Fast. Pebble nodded, then pointed at the scanner. Let me. He blinked. You? She took it from him, hands moving with confidence. Faster than his. She rewired the input node, looped the signal through a crystal chip she pulled from her pendant, and hit execute. The signal vanished. Colt gawked. That was my scanner. She handed it back. It was broken. Well, now it's hurt and insulted. She tilted her head. Like you. Exactly. Wait, hey. She stood, ears sharp, eyes on the sky. More will come. He nodded. Then let's not be here when they do. They packed quickly. He left the hologram running as a distraction. The foam alien tripped again, and Pebble gave a brief snort of amusement. They slipped into the dark, Colt mumbling to himself about how he should have taken that desk job on Zeta Prime, where the most dangerous thing was running out of ink. By the time the first retrieval unit landed near the relay tower, the cave was empty, except for the simulation, still playing, and a scanner with a melted chip blinking nonsense code. Far above, in a ship with no name and no registry, someone reviewed the footage and muttered in a voice of mild disbelief, "She has a human." The reply came through static. "Leave them. For now. Let them run. The desert will do what we could not." But the desert, for once, was rooting for someone else. They walked for hours under a sky so wide it made thoughts feel small. The stars had changed again, shifted subtly like someone had rearranged the furniture of the cosmos while they weren't looking. Colt scowled at his nav compass, which had begun spinning with the desperation of a caffeine-addled hummingbird. "This thing's drunk," he muttered, "or lost, or both. Like me at the Interplanetary Mechanics Conference after 2 shots of Martian gin." Pebble, walking 3 steps ahead, gave him a sideways glance. "Maybe it's sensing magnetic distortion." He blinked. "Oh, we're just using big words now?" She smirked. Progress. The ground beneath them turned from sand to brittle crystal flats that chimed faintly underfoot, each step a whispered note in a forgotten symphony. Colt tried to hum along, promptly tripped, and nearly impaled himself on a shard that looked suspiciously like a government-issued dagger. Pebble pulled him upright without comment. "Smooth," he said. "I always fall for the dramatic terrain." They passed an old outpost buried up to its neck in sediment, its beacon still blinking weakly like a lighthouse that hadn't accepted retirement. Colt tapped into its interface with a cable and a half apology. The screen came alive with a grainy projection of a man who looked like he regretted every life choice since breakfast. "Welcome to Survey Node 9C, said the recording. "Please state the nature of your emergency." Colt leaned in. "Hi. Yes, we're being chased by an organization that may or may not exist on paper. We're dehydrated, sleep-deprived, and one of us," he gestured toward Pebble, who raised a brow, "is extremely mysterious and definitely more competent than me." The recording blinked. "Please state the nature of your emergency," he sighed. "Right. Automated. Figures." Pebble walked around the terminal, tapped something beneath the panel, and a compartment hissed open, revealing 2 canisters of water, a packet of preserved ration discs, and a small data chip labeled "Do Not Eat." Colt held up the chip. "Think it's mint-flavored?" She took it and slotted it into her pendant. The screen flickered again. This time the projection changed. New image. A woman, not human. Long ears, angular face. Pebble's eyes widened. "Daughter," the figure said. Colt froze. "Okay, definitely not mint-flavored." The recording spoke again, glitching slightly. "If you found this, then they failed to erase all traces. I pray this means you escaped." Pebble didn't move. "You were never just a subject," the voice continued. "You were hope, a test of kindness in a cruel design. But they feared what you could become if shown compassion." The message dissolved into static. Colt exhaled. "So, that was your mom? Or your lab tech? Honestly, with families these days..." Pebble didn't answer. He softened his voice. "Hey, you okay?" She wiped her face quickly, too quickly. He looked away. "Right, sorry, I'll, inventory the not food." They moved on. Quiet now. But something between them had shifted. Not spoken, not named, but real. As they climbed a ridge of glass-like rock, a distant hum stirred the air. A ship, small, fast, scouting pattern. Colt crouched. "Friend or foe, you think?" Pebble answered by pulling a cloak of refractor fiber from her pack. She draped it over them, and the world dimmed. Muted colors, warped heat. They became a heat shimmer in the shape of absence. Colt whispered, "You always carry invisibility fabric?" "That's not normal, Pebble." She held up a finger. "Wait." The ship passed overhead, sleek, black, nearly silent. A single mark on its belly, a red helix coiled around a stylized eye. Colt frowned. "That's not a peacekeeping badge." She whispered, "Pursuers." He rubbed his face. "Of course. You couldn't be chased by boring criminals. No, you get designer agents with matching logos." They waited in silence until the ship disappeared over the horizon. "Time to go," Colt said. "I don't feel like becoming a heat stain on some agent's slide deck." They moved faster now, guided by the map Pebble reconstructed from old outpost pings and celestial alignments. She worked the data with casual mastery, lines of code flowing from her fingers like breath. Colt watched, both impressed and a little offended. "I used to be considered smart." "You still are," she said. He blinked. "Wow. I don't know what's more shocking, your compliment or the fact that you didn't smirk after saying it." She allowed herself the smallest grin. "Both." Night returned, colder now. They camped beneath a rock arch that looked like someone had bent a planet's spine into a question mark. Colt started a fire with his emergency flame gel and an old comic strip he never admitted carrying. He pulled out 2 ration packs. "Tonight's menu, textureless joy and regret with a hint of sawdust." Pebble sniffed hers. "It smells processed. Flavored like victory and cardboard." She poked the ration. "Which is which?" "Depends how long we live." She didn't laugh, but her eyes shone in the firelight. They ate and talked. Not much, but more than before. She asked about Earth. He told her about a planet both chaotic and kind, where dogs still ruled the internet and people argued passionately about pizza. She described her world in fragments, glimmering towers, singing metal, nights of silence. It sounded beautiful, and then it ended. "Why did they leave you?" he asked gently. She looked up. "Because I didn't want to become them." The wind picked up again, this time colder than memory. It brought a scent, ozone and fuel. He stood. "Someone's coming." Pebble reached for her pack. Colt scanned the dark with an old recon scope. A light shimmered on the ridge behind them. Then another. He muttered, "Well, at least we're popular." They ran. Behind them, the fire died. Above, the scout ship circled once, then banked away, content for now. to let the desert do the hunting. They reached the canyon at first light. The cliffs rose like the ribs of the planet, jagged and red and echoing with the groans of distant tectonics. Colt dropped to one knee, panting like an asthmatic toaster. "Congratulations," he wheezed. "You've broken the record for longest forced hike in inappropriate footwear." Pebble adjusted the strap of her pack, hair matted with dust. "You chose boots without treads." "I thought they were stylish." "They're loud and slippery, like your personality." He chuckled, wiped sweat from his brow, and squinted down into the valley. "That's the outpost?" She nodded. "Buried under debris. But the comm tower's intact. We can boost a signal from there. Please tell me it won't involve crawling through more sand-infested ruins while things try to shoot us." A pause. He sighed. "I really need to stop asking questions I don't want answered." They descended carefully, each step dislodging dust and memory. The canyon was quiet, unnervingly so, like the land was holding its breath. At the base, they found the remnants of an old alien structure fused with human tech. A Frankenstein of desperation. Pebble moved quickly, fingers dancing across a rusted console like she was playing the bones of a song she used to know. Colt stood guard, holding the old plasma cutter like it was a lucky charm instead of a weapon. "You sure you're getting through?" "Yes." "That's very confident." "I rewrote part of the encryption using your entertainment projector's firmware." He blinked. "You used the holo soap opera?" "It had good emotional subroutines." He grinned. "That explains the dramatic pauses." The console blinked once, twice, then came to life. Colt leaned in. "Tell me we just pinged someone friendly." Pebble tilted her head. "Military, human, define friendly." "They're from your old squadron." He gave a slow whistle. "Those guys? Haven't seen them since the barbecue incident on Eridani Station." She glanced over. "You were banned from a military base?" "Technically, I was asked to leave with Flare." They boosted the signal and buried the beacon beneath loose stone. Then they waited. Hours passed. Pebble dismantled a leftover drone, turned it into a miniature cooker, and roasted a ration bar until it stopped tasting like rubberized apocalypse. "You know," Colt said, chewing, "this is almost peaceful." "You say that too often before disaster strikes." "It's a gift." A shadow passed overhead. Colt tensed. "Don't say it." She didn't. The scout ship returned, sleeker now, with new markings and a more aggressive hum. It hovered silently above the ridge, then deployed two figures, tall, armored, faceless. Colt raised his cutter. "I'm assuming negotiation is off the table?" "They're not good listeners." He cracked his neck. "Well, I've been dying to underachieve spectacularly." The agents advanced. Pebble held out the data pendant. The lead agent paused. "Return the subject," it said in a voice like dry static. "The soldier may go." Colt stepped forward. "Yeah, see, we're kind of a package deal now." Pebble whispered. "They'll kill you." He shrugged. "They'll try. I'm statistically resilient." The agent raised a weapon. Pebble moved faster than thought. Her fingers extended into thin tendrils of blue light, disrupting the signal between the weapon and its power core. It hissed, sparked, and died. Colt blinked. "You've been holding out on me." "They wanted me controlled. I learned to hide." The second agent lunged. Colt tackled it, the cutter screaming as it sliced armor. They tumbled. Dust exploded. Pebble dragged the first agent into the ruins, slammed its head into the console, and fed it a loop of her mother's message. The agent froze, twitching, replaying. The image of the long-eared woman flickered in its visor. Colt, meanwhile, was losing gracefully. He landed hard, spat sand, and yelled, "I'm running out of witty remarks." Pebble reached into her cloak and pulled out the pulse crystal, the one from the pendant, and hurled it. It struck the agent mid-charge. A wave of soft blue force exploded outward, not violent, but deafening in thought. The agent staggered, dropped its weapon, and fell. Silence. Colt sat up, holding his ribs. "You ever think about joining community theater?" She offered him a hand. The comm beacon pinged. Incoming. A dropship. He grinned. "Time to go home." They waited as the ship landed. Doors opened. Familiar uniforms. No weapons drawn. A woman with a scar across her chin called out, "Private Walker?" Colt raised a hand. In the exhausted flesh, she glanced at Pebble. Friend or foe? He looked at Pebble, then back. She saved my life, more than once. So, friend, the woman nodded. Then we'll debrief together. On board, Colt leaned against the wall and exhaled deeply. Pebble sat beside him. Are you okay? He looked over. Not sure, but I'm better with you around. She blinked. You've changed, he smirked. I was always this charming, just hidden under bad decisions and caffeine. She smiled. You didn't leave me. Would have taken a planet to stop me. She looked out the window as the desert shrank beneath them. It's strange. I was built to survive alone. He nodded. And now? I prefer not to. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled packet of ration mints. Souvenir? She took one, unwrapped it, and grimaced. Still terrible, he laughed. They flew into the morning, two unlikely allies stitched together by circumstance, courage, and something deeper, something that could survive deserts, pursuit, and secrets. Above the clouds, a new world waited, and this time neither of them was walking into it alone.